Never take sweeping a team lightly, no matter how bad the opponent is. Not in baseball. The Brewers do just that. They sweep by the White Sox. We'll talk about very interesting series with Chicago and how the Brewers are expanding their lead in the NL Central and running away with things. Maybe. We'll get to that coming up next. You're a Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers did it this weekend. They swept the 3-game series from the Chicago White Sox. And, the White Sox are a bad baseball team. But I just think baseball, you just can't go in and say, well, they should sweep this series. Doing a sports talk show for a number of years, people would call it, oh, they should have swept the Oakland A's, should have done this. It's not how it works. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. Tommy Pham tries to start something with the Milwaukee Brewers. No, this isn't on Contreras. This is on Tommy Pham trying to be Tommy Tough Guy. We'll get to that coming up here a little bit. Mark Attanasio, my read into it, as far as is Willie or Willie not coming back next year, talking about Adames. We'll get to that story as well. And the Phillies coming up here beginning on Monday afternoon, later on today. Good to have you along. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along. Longtime sportscaster in the state of Wisconsin. Get this podcast on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all the major downloads. Go to my growing YouTube page. Search Locked On Brewers on YouTube. Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. This episode brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. They're the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. All right. Yeah, sweeping a team like the White Sox, they've lost 12 in a row. They're terrible. I get that. But, they're capable of winning. If you look at all three of these games, the White Sox were in all three of these games for a portion of it. That's just the way baseball is. Part of me did not feel good about at some point, did not feel good about any of them, even down 3-1 on Saturday afternoon until Adames came up with a 2-run single. You look back to Friday night, things got off to a slow start, and then the Brewers began to turn things around. And it was a hit parade. Yesterday, Sunday, got down early, slow start. Freddy struggled in the first inning. Didn't look like Freddy was even going to make it out of the first inning. But he did, and the Brewers survived. And now they're 36-23, 7.5 games up. We'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit. What I really liked about this, as much as I love the sweep of anybody, and to move 13 games over the 500 mark, for a while there, they were struggling, moving to double digits over the 500 mark. They had got to 9 games over like twice. Finally, last week, they got to 10 games over, and here they now are with this 3-game sweep, 13 games over the 500 mark. That's incredible. But what I really loved is William Contreras and Willy Adames came to the ballpark on Sunday at AmFam Field and saw their name was not in a lineup. All right. Yeah, they very easily could have taken the day off, a Sunday off. Oh, here we are, the Milwaukee Brewers throwing out their Sunday lineup, being comfortable winning the first 2 games of the series against the White Sox. And let's rest him into this big series with the Phillies. No, these games of the Phillies count just as much as these games of the White Sox. I don't like that attitude at all. And I know there's rest days that these guys got to have and that sort of thing. But I think at this point, you had a chance to get yourself a cushion in this division, by coming out and putting the hammer down on the White Sox. You took the first 2. Yeah, let's try to take 3. And I like that attitude. Now, why would you want a day off? If you are worth your salt as a ball player and as a competitor, you're saying, no, get me in that lineup, man. We're 12 games over the 500 mark. We're fighting to blow this division out of the water, really take command of this division. I want in. It's a Sunday afternoon. I want into this lineup. Contreras and Adames. Now, they combined for 1 of 7, but they did other things. They did, it just doesn't count in the plate appearances. And Contreras is struggling a little bit after that great start. The numbers have not been great in the last 100 at-bats or so. Or maybe like the last, I should say last 50 at-bats or so. But still, both of those guys made other contributions to this game. Little things they do, being a part of this game. Contreras nearly missed a 3-run home run in this game. Adames nearly put one out. But yeah, I want two of my best hitters. If I'm going to rest guys, this is one thing I don't like what the Brewers do, is when they rest guys, they rest everybody. It's like the NBA when a team clinches a playoff spot. They rest everybody. And there's guys who should be in the G League who are playing on that night. And the Brewers seem to do that. On a Sunday afternoon, people are going out there paying their good hard money to go see their team play, their favorite team play. Okay? Now, I want to see Contreras play. I want to see Willy Adames play. And the fans deserve that. And they got that. Yeah, I get the rest and all that. And that's the way sports has gone now. This resting stuff and all that. And I get it. But still, fighting to stay in the lineup. I know me as a competitor, okay, I want to be there for the moment. I want to play. I want to be on the air. I want to do this. I want to be there. I want to be. That's the way. We got a hardworking city. This is a hardworking state. We want to be there. We want to work. We want to get the job done. We want to do it right. Contreras and Adames. I love it. Now, Adames might not be on this team next year. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. As for Tommy Tough Guy Pham, this was a joke. Tommy Pham is always, I've caught his act before, the White Sox. And here's what happened. There was a play at the plate. Yelich threw the Pham out at the plate by a mile. Pham knew he was going to be out at home plate. So he took an angle on the infield grass side of home plate to get to Contreras, try to sneak in that way. And Contreras did not block home plate, but he blocked that part, and he got Pham out. And Contreras celebrated. Okay. You can't celebrate in baseball, remember. The only people who can celebrate in baseball is a pitcher on a strikeout. He's the only guy that's allowed to celebrate. But an outfielder, a play at the plate, catcher's not allowed to celebrate. Okay. Guy jacks a home run, ain't allowed to celebrate. Those are probably the old baseball rules, but a pitcher can celebrate all he wants, striking somebody out of an inning. Okay. And then, of course, a pitcher, when he gives up a home run, his retaliation is throw at somebody's head. So Tommy Tough Guy gets thrown out, and Contreras celebrates. And then Pham walking back to the dugout, walking back. He didn't want any part of Contreras. He didn't want any part of anybody. But he was talking trash, walking away. And then as the guy was jogging to the outfield, he's shadowboxing. I never saw that before. Like he was in a UFC fight. Unbelievable. He was shadowboxing. Come on. It's baseball. And then his comments after the game. Listen to this. Got thrown out. Quote, the situation of the game, third base coach sends you, you got to go. So right there, he's pissed or he's mad that the third base coach sent him. I'm nailed out at home by a mile. I'm going to the dugout, and I hear the tough guy with all the hoorah, blank, blank. So I'll never start anything, he says, but I'll be prepared to finish it. And he talks about how he takes fighting in the off season, and, he's, bring it on, one of those kind of things. Like that was supposed to intimidate anybody. In a game of baseball, he takes fighting lessons or whatever in the offseason. He was going to start intimidating people. Like, don't mess around with Tommy. Tough guy. Yeah, he was walking away. Go back to Chicago with your lousy baseball team, okay, and your third biggest city in the United States that can't support its baseball team. Almost moved to Milwaukee in 1970. Should have moved here in 1969. Yeah, Tommy Pham. What a joke. When I heard this happen, I didn't see it. But I had a funny feeling it was Tommy Pham involved. I did not see it. I saw the replay a million times. I had to leave the house, but I was back, and where I am in the part of Wisconsin I'm listening to the radio on, I do not get a clear reception of Brewers baseball. I live in a certain part of, you would guess you hear Brewer baseball everywhere. Where I live, I cannot get a clear reception of Brewers baseball. If you could believe that. In Dodge County, not a clear, I especially cannot hear it in the house. But, thank God for the app. But I got the game on TV. But I had to go to the store. I had to get something real quick, and I missed it. And when I got back and I saw this about Tommy Pham, they told me in the house, well, there was another blow up at the Brewer game. Oh, Tommy Pham again. Yep, sure, Tommy Pham involved. Out of the base path. Saw the highlight. So, but Jackson Chourio hitting that second inning home run. Brewers got down 2-0. Chourio put him on track. 3-run bomb, a long one in the second inning. And Freddy Peralta bounced back. Freddy had a tough start of the game. 43 pitches in that first inning. And you saw that he was laboring in the first inning. And they were talking on a broadcast even. Freddie was talking. Freddie was talking. Brian was talking. Brian Anderson talking about Freddie. Boy, they got guys up in the bullpen already. In a hurry. Junk is out there. Jansen Junk is out there warming. Peralta might not make it through this inning. And he goes, well, he might not be long for the game. Peralta threw 43 pitches in the first inning, ended up hanging around, ironically, for a 97-pitch 5 innings. Yeah, it looked like he was going to be done maybe 3 innings of work the way he was going, but he stuck around for 5 on 4 hits. He struck out 7. So he put things on track a little bit and settled down after that first inning, but he's still at 97 pitches after 5 innings. As Brian Anderson said, he was not long for this game, and he was right. But he did make the most out of the limited number of pitches he had left in this game. So 43 pitches in the first game, 97 pitches total through first inning, 43 pitches first inning, 97 total. So he hung around, allowed 4 hits, 7 Ks, 3 earned runs. So he, based on after what he blew up in the first inning, you take what he did from the first through the fourth inning, keeping his team in the ball game. And you know what? What I like, the offense bailed them out. This was not, Freddie giving up 2 first inning runs and the rest is history. Freddie got the win because Freddie in his last outing, remember, he gave that 1 run through 7 innings and did not get a win for his efforts. And we all get frustrated when that happens. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. When we return here on Locked On Brewers, we'll talk about Mark Attanasio. Silence is golden, I guess, regarding Willy Adames. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. SupplyHouse, just telling you a little while ago, SupplyHouse is sponsoring the show. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com, reliable way to order plumbing, h-vac, electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts, 200,000 parts, and over 400 top brands. Get your orders delivered right to your door. Fast shipping, coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support, industry-leading service for the friendliest folks in the business. Talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts at every order. Join the thousands of trade pros who are already benefiting from a free membership. SupplyHouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies from everywhere. Just a few clicks. SupplyHouse.com. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. All right, Mark Attanasio has a couple of times a year, Attanasio will talk to the media and just give a little state of the house, what's going on in the Brewers' house. Just tell us a little bit of a few things. You're never given the keys of the kingdom. He's asked the typical questions. Are you going to start spending some money? And like this past weekend, he says, well, it'd be a luxury if we were able to spend another $100 million and all that. And it sounds like he's not spending any money anytime soon. That's what it sounds like. And I get it. It's the Brewer plan that you don't have to spend money to make your franchise in first place. I mean, look at they're doing this through draft and development so far, the Milwaukee Brewers. They're doing their farm system. There are teams out there who are spending more money but aren't going anywhere, like the New York Mets. The Cubs have spent some money. But there's a lot of teams out there that spent money and don't go anywhere. Now you could argue with the Brewers, well, they're having some regular season success, but where is the postseason success? But Willy Adames, he was asked about Willy and a contract extension, and Attanasio kind of danced around it, said, obviously Adames is going to get, and I'm paraphrasing here, Adames is going to get a lot of contract offers in the off season. He's going to get a lot of, he's going to be a big name out there. We got a lot of calls of him during the off season. And after that, he said, oh, Willy, a great leadership of this team, very valuable leadership on the cogs of this team. Again, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting him, but this is what he basically said. And my take from it was that he was not going to budge and they have not even thought of giving Adames. He's not ruling it out, but it doesn't sound like it is happening. Certainly they're not trading him unless they completely fall off the cliff and they're out of the pennant race in July. They have a 7.5 game lead. They would have to really step in the bucket to not be in the pennant race in July. And of course, if you're in the pennant race in July, you'd be an absolute fool to trade Adames, one of the heartbeats on this Milwaukee Brewer team. So that's what I took about it. He's not going to give Adames. He's going to let him ride it out, much like we let Molitor ride it out in 92. I ain't comparing him to Molitor. Trust me, Molitor's one of the all-time greats. But Adames is going to be coveted out there. We know that. Even going into this season, we knew that he was going to be get a lot of money. And I think Attanasio, it's not like Adames has been all-star caliber in every year he's been with the Milwaukee Brewers. I get that. And if I was Attanasio too, I'd be scared of giving Willy Adames a long-term mega bucks contract. Absolutely. Especially when you look like the Christian Yelich. Now it looks like he's coming back a little bit. And he had the 5-for-6 night the other night. But you gave 2 long-term contracts to Ryan Braun, and you could argue that they didn't get the bang for the buck out of that deal, and maybe Yelich was headed in that same direction, but looks like Yelich's making a little bit of recovery. Speaking of Braun, he was asked about Braun's number being retired, and again, Attanasio kind of danced around that question too. Said, well, there's a process around here. He's going into the Wall of Fame, or he's going into the Walk of Fame out there. We've had a handful of players, 20 players out there. And, that's quite a deal right there. Door is still open for Ryan Braun. Braun, should he have his jersey retire? I don't think so. I think you got to be a Hall of Fame type player, although I will make an exception for Jim Gantner. I've said that before. Before Ryan Braun goes in and gets his number retired, they need to do it to Jimmy, because Jimmy played his entire career at the Brewers, solid, and he was Wisconsin born. I think that is along lines of a lifetime achievement for Jimmy Gantner. That's where I'd make an exception. Wasn't a Hall of Famer, wasn't a multiple-time All-Star, but Jimmy Gantner, being a Wisconsinite, grew up in Eden, Campbellsport High School, Jimmy Gantner deserves to be in ahead of Ryan Braun. Braun's a better ball player, but Jimmy Gantner was a big part of success here in Milwaukee. All right, the Brewers got the Phillies coming up in a first of 3, and the Phillies are the best team in baseball. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Show is brought to you in part by PrizePicks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports teams this summer. You can make PrizePicks lineups in a little as 60 seconds. All you need to pick is more or less on hits, runs, walks, points if you're going NBA, goals, NHL, stat projections, and you're locked in between 2 to 6 players. And of course, the more you pick right, the more you win. Looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered each week, lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays. That'll increase your chances of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, over 5 million active members. Get in on all the daily action with your friends. Become part of the PrizePicks community. Here's what you need to do. For instance, Aaron Nola, 7 strikeouts, more or less. Adolis Garcia, more or less in total bases, like a 1.5. Aaron Judge, more or less on home runs, 0.5. That sort of thing. Download the app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app, PrizePicks. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Your first deposit match up to $100 with PrizePicks. This is Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Philadelphia Phillies coming to town for a first. I'm sorry. They're going to Philadelphia. They're going to Philadelphia, and then they're going to Detroit next weekend. And Detroit's not going to be any easy out either. But Philly is 41-19. They're the best team in baseball. They're great. They were on Sunday Night Baseball. And we're going to talk about the Brewers once again getting snubbed from Sunday Night Baseball, because somebody tweet at me at this. The Brewers will be facing Zach Wheeler Monday, Christopher Sanchez Tuesday, Aaron Nola in the afternoon game on Wednesday. The afternoon game Wednesday's at 3:10 Central Time. These next two games, Monday and Tuesday, 5:40 starts. Now, it appears Bryce Wilson is getting the start on Monday, which means Colin Ray likely would be making the start, I guess, on Tuesday, if I got that figured out. But then if you look at certain parts of Brewer notes, the Brewers have not named their starter for Monday or Tuesday. But I would think that Bryce Wilson is getting the start in this game on Monday. That's my guess. But the Phillies are a very good hitting team. You look at all the offensive stats in the baseball, top 5, top 6, top 4, and some. Pound the baseball. Bryce Harper, 14 home runs. Trey Turner, their fine shortstop, is hurt. But they got some bats. Schwarber at the top of the lineup. Okay, they got some guys who can hit. And the Phillies, you look at their postseason success last 2 years, you could argue they could have won a World Series in each of the last 2 years. Lost to Arizona in the playoffs last year. Got beat by Houston 2 years ago in the series. But, it's just an odd history for the Philadelphia Phillies. Big market, one of the big cities in our country, big market, Philadelphia. And there has not been a lot of success. Not really. Not a lot of success. Not a lot of championships for the Phillies. And you would expect it more, because they're kind of a brand. No, not like the Cubs or the Mets or the Yankees. But Philly, flying high this year. They are the best team in baseball. Brewers, if they could just go in there and not get swept, I know that's kind of a loser's attitude to take, but I'm just looking for them. They can at least win one of this series. They're 36-23. The Brewers have a 7.5 game lead on the Cubs in St. Louis. And the Brewers are in a great driver's seat right now, as long as they don't fall flat on their face. I mean, they've built up quite a bit of equity, 7.5 game lead, but let's not get comfortable with that. Let's continue to pound and build on that. Okay. Build on that. And the deeper you get in the season and the higher, and you get a game, you're up 7.5 games, the tougher it's going to be for anybody to get you. But long way to go. Long way to go. But I love where the Brewers are at right now. Sunday Night Baseball. Somebody tweeted at me and said, Chuck, why aren't the Brewers on Sunday Night Baseball? I don't have an answer for that at all. But I've said for years, gosh, the Brewers, what a slap in the face for the team. And maybe the Brewer organization doesn't want it. I know for summers in Wisconsin are precious, because we all know who we live here. It's warm maybe 2 months a year, 3 if we're lucky. It's starting to warm up now. So our summers in Wisconsin, when they are nice, they're fantastic. So when the Brewers are away, okay, it'd be nice to get outside and, enjoy Wisconsin weather. If the Brewers were on a Sunday night baseball game on the road, I wouldn't mind it so much. I'm at a lot of the Sunday home games, so it doesn't really matter. But like Sunday afternoons, you like to go and play golf and all that. The Brewers on. I'm watching the Brewers, but I'd like to go out and do a few things. My kid's got 12-year-old little league and that sort of thing and hockey. So if they had played Sunday night, because all that stuff is usually done by 5 or 6 o'clock, if we got a couple of Sunday night games, I'd be good with it. But the Brewers never catch a break, never on Sunday night baseball. Total disrespect. I mean, how Major League Baseball looks and says, well, the Brewers, let's see, since 2017, they've been pretty competitive, won a couple of division titles. They've been one of the best teams in baseball. Their record argues for that. Yet they're never on Sunday night baseball. It's just amazing what little national attention the Brewers get. All right, who cares, right? Because as long as the Brewers keep winning, that's all we care about. Hey, baseball's a local sport anyway, right? Regional and local. Mark Attanasio said as much this weekend about baseball being a local regional sport, and it is with the Milwaukee Brewers. Here in our state, you don't see too many fans who aren't transplants of the Milwaukee Brewers. In other words, somebody who grew up in Wisconsin, living in Arizona right now, that's a Brewer fan. But rarely do I run into people ever who grew up in Texas. Oh, I'm a lifelong Milwaukee Brewer fan. You never hear that. Never at all. Wish I was wrong on that, but I'm not. It's going to do it. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all the major downloads where you download your podcast platforms. We're on all those. We're the number one Brewer podcast on the internet because you great Brewer fans out there. Also, hit me up on YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Please go to my Twitter account. Go to Chuck Freeman, Freimund. I read every comment, and you guys tweet at me. I had a guy again tweet at me about ESPN not showing the Brewers on Sunday Night Baseball. So I will reference you. If you don't want me to reference you, you can tell me that, DM me, whatever. Contact me 24 hours a day. And, of course, there's comment sections on YouTube where you can put anything you want me to talk about or have a comment on anything regarding our favorite baseball team, the Milwaukee Brewers. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers. Thank you all everydayers for joining us. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Have yourself a great Monday, everybody.